Hey guys, welcome to today's battle report. And today we're going to be taking another run through the Caught in the Herd scenario written by Tom over at TNG Productions. So if you watched the first video, we didn't do really well. There's going to be a link to that up in the corner. You can go back and watch that one if you haven't seen it yet. Negan is not the ideal character to take through this scenario. So today we're going to try to get someone who can control the nerve, being Ezekiel. Now we're going to have Ezekiel trying to rescue Shiva from the center of the board there. And this scenario in a nutshell is take the guy on the edge, get to the person in the middle, rescue them, and then both run off of the board with the lowest threat in the fewest amount of turns. So for this mission, we're going to have 2 supply tokens on the board, one on top of that gray car, and then one under the bus stop back there. There are 8 walkers out there, and the threat is going to start on 3. So let's go straight into turn 1. In turn 1, threat is going to start out on 3. We're going to take Ezekiel and have him make an 8-inch run action over there towards that silver car. And that noise is going to draw in the closest walker to him. And in this scenario, noise is also going to cause the threat tracker to increase. So the threat is going to go up to 4. And that's going to be the only survivor actions that we can take in this turn. Shiva does not become playable until we get over to her and perform some kind of special check. And I'll explain that when that time comes. But for now, you can see that there's no one that's going to move into Ezekiel's kill zone. So we're going to go straight into the first event card, which is Night Fighting. And this is really going to screw with us in this scenario because it's going to advance the threat by 2 at the end of each turn. All right, so event phase down, up the threat by 1 to 5, and we'll go into the melee phase with Ezekiel against 1 walker. And in combat, this is the Leader of the Kingdom version of Ezekiel, so he has 2 red dice by default as melee. He's not armed with any kind of melee weapons, and the walker is going to have a single purple dice for its attack. So we go ahead and move that walker back an inch and knock him prone. And in our end phase, we're going to roll to see if he gets back up now. And we're going to roll the 50-50 die. On a badge, the walker will stand back up, and on a blank, the walker will stay prone. And because of that night fighting, we're going to increase the threat by 2. So we go from 5 up to 7. And at the start of turn 2 here, the threat has skyrocketed all the way up to 7. So for our first action, Ezekiel is going to go ahead and search that supply token on top of the car. And inside of there, we find a Shiv. So we'll go ahead and put that in our hand. And now for our second action, Ezekiel is going to use his Kingly Special Rule, which allows him to reduce the threat by a blue die. So we reduce the threat by 2 and bring it back down to 5. And so after a fairly uneventful turn there, we are ready to go into our event phase. So we have Mega Herd. So we're going to have a herd of walkers come onto the board and then move to a point 10 inches closer. We are in low threat, so we're going to have 3 walkers come into play now. So there we have 3 walkers come on the bottom of the board edge there in between the house and the bus stop. And now we get to pick a point 10 inches away from them or more and have them shamble towards that. And they all wind up somewhere around there. That takes us into our end phase because we have no melee combat right there. So we'll go ahead and roll for that prone walker again. So that walker's going to stand back up. And we're going to up the threat by 2 again. Back to 7. Start turn 3. Threat is still at 7. We're going to have Ezekiel go and make a sneak action to get over towards Shiva. And that sneak action puts Shiva in Ezekiel's kill zone, which now allows him to go ahead and make the Are You Okay roll. For this Are You Okay roll, here's how this works. We take what our threat currently is at, 7, minus 1 brings it to 6. We roll 6 dice as an attack against Shiva. She gets to roll her regular defense, which will be a red and a white. And if she survives this attack, she becomes playable. So we're going to go ahead and roll all of these dice at the same time. And this roll is not subject to the bitten roll. And we wind up there with 4 successes for the walkers, 2 successes for Shiva. So Shiva is going to take 2 wounds. So Shiva is down to 4 wounds. However, she is still in base contact with both of those walkers. So she's going to be stuck in melee now. We're going to go into our next event card, which is the Walking Dead. So +2 to the threat takes us up to 9 into medium threat. And we're going to have double blue walkers enter play and move towards the nearest survivor. So we're going to bring on 3 walkers, 2 down here on that side of the road, move towards Ezekiel, and then 1 over here behind the gray car, which happens to just run right into it as she tries to make her way to Ezekiel. On to the melee combat phase, up the threat by 1 to 10, and we're going to have Shiva against 2 walkers. Alright, Shiva in combat has a blue and a red as her base, and she's rolling against 2 walkers, so that's going to give them 3 purple for their attack. Alright, so at least we avoid the bite there. Shiva is able to tie combat and knock both of those walkers back an inch. That's going to be the end of this turn. We're going to up the threat by 2 because of the Night Fighting card. We're now at 12, and we're going to go into turn 4. And at the start of turn 4, the threat is now up to 12. So we're going to go ahead and have Ezekiel start out by using his kingly ability to lower that back down. So luckily we rolled a 3, and now we drop the threat back down to 9. And having lowered the threat with so many walkers coming in after him now, Ezekiel is going to make a mad dash to get off of the board. So we're going to make an 8-inch run over there towards them cones. So we managed to make it over to here, which is going to pull in the closest walker to us. And that noise is going to increase the threat again by 1. So the threat goes back up to 10. We are now able to go and activate Shiva. Shiva, being a beast, is able to make a 10-inch run action, which is going to be enough to get her off of the board. And that brings her to just over the safety cones back here. That's still going to create noise, so we up the threat by 1 to 11, and we're going to move in the closest walker to her. And I'm not 100% sure if we have to resolve that melee or not. I'll go ahead and do it. That's all of our survivor actions. Hopefully this will be the last event card. So we have Shooting at Shadows, +1 to the threat, takes us up to 12. All survivors with a nerve value lower than the current threat, which is neither of ours because they both have high nerve, must choose to have a ranged weapon. Start with the player with initiative and alternate choosing a model and resolving the shoot action. In addition, anytime a shot is resolved, white walkers enter play. If an eligible survivor has no functioning ranged weapon, it must run. So we're going to go ahead here and say that this will not affect our game other than increasing the threat. So back over here on the side of the board, melee combat, up the threat by 1 to 13, and we're going to go ahead and start with Ezekiel against 1 walker. So Ezekiel again, double red, and at this point you may as well go ahead and add our Shiv into it so we can use a 3rd red die against a single purple. So that was pretty disappointing. We were able to just push that walker back an inch and knock him prone. Let's see if Shiva can do any better against a single walker here. So here we have Shiva rolling red and blue against a purple. And Shiva is able to go and remove that walker from play. So we have 1 prone walker to roll for now in our end phase. And at start turn 5, the threat has gone up to 15. So we are way higher in the threat than I thought we were going to get up there to. So for Ezekiel's first action, he's going to use his kingly ability to try and drop that down again. And we'll reduce the threat by 2, back down to 13. And now for our second action, Ezekiel is just over 4 inches away from the cones there. So we're going to go ahead and make a run action to get him off of the board. That creates noise, takes the threat back up to 14. The big walker down there is the closest one within 10 inches. We can go ahead and move him 6. Not that's going to matter though, because now Ezekiel and Shiva have both made it off of the board. Let's go and see how we did point-wise. And so for the point calculation in this game, we're going to go ahead and start with our ending threat, which was 14. We're then going to add the amount of turns that we took to make it off of the board, which was 5, taking us up to 19. Minus 3, because both survivors were able to escape. And then minus another 2, because we were able to collect 1 supply token, which gives us a total of 14 points. Now that's better than I did in my first game, but still nowhere near as good as the game could have been. And I'm going to chalk that up to the event deck screwing me over there so many times in the game. So if you guys like this one, if you haven't tried this game out yet, go over and download it from the Walking Dead Facebook page. It's in the file section there, I believe. Guys, make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you can see all of my battle reports on here. And I got some neat stuff coming up here later on in the month that you're not going to want to miss, including the continuation of our Woodbury campaign and some new products that I want to show off for y'all. So I will look for you guys in the next battle report.